Friday
Hey,
edition. Our
the
guest.
Friday edition, and it's my birthday, and we get to celebrate it
Ah,
by hanging out with Derek Drew of EKT, right?
Happy
EKT
birthday,
batteries,
Jerry.
man. No,
Yeah.
first of all, happy birthday, man.
Hey, I'm 59. I'm creeping, creep. Hey,
You
but
know,
like was it Clint Eastwood said, "Don't let the old man in." So,
don't let the old man.
so
Well,
I keep my
good
hair
news is
short.
59. 59. 59 is the new 58. So you're fine.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
But hey, Derek Drew here with EKT batteries. Again, we were joking pre-show that we had a very interesting conversation about Euro screens. I didn't think we'd be talking about batteries, but batteries are actually fascinating. And Derek Drew, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. It's always the why is always interesting. So,
So
regardless of what you're talking about, but I love batteries.
So tell us a little bit. Like we like to learn things. And people who watch this, they learn things. So we're focused on the contract cleaners, anybody in the cleaning business. But tell us a little bit about how you got sucked into the business of cleaning, and we'll go into really tell us more a little bit about your company. And then what I really want to take a deep dive is kind of what you guys are doing on the battery front that is going to be next level. So let's hit off with the first question of how the hell did you get in this business?
Yeah, I feel like nobody intentionally gets into the genset industry, and so for me, I remember I was in grad school, I was sitting on the couch, and I was coaching at Illinois State at the time, and coaching track and field. Didn't know what I wanted to do next. And I got a call from one of my childhood friends that I ran track with. Her husband was at Neil Fisk. He was a regional sales manager, and he was moving out to Dallas. And they were looking for another athlete to replace him because he played football at the University of Illinois, and they've had good experience with athletes, so we're just on the hunt for another one. And I said, hey, I don't know anything about auto scrubbers or anything about Neil Fisk as a company. And but the next week, I was a Decatur at a show meeting my future regional manager Adam Luz, and taught me a little bit about the industry. And next thing you know, I was working for Nilfis a couple weeks later, and haven't been able to get out since. And that was roughly 8 or 9 years ago. So yeah, that's kind
You're a
of
life. You're a lifer. You get pulled in this business. It's kind of like the mob. You don't leave the business. You leave families maybe. But
yeah.
I'll tell you. You hit an interesting point, man. I'll tell you this. One of my best hires I ever had back in my days at Spartan Chemical, Jesse Ramesh. God bless you, Jesse Ramesh, kicking ass, taking names. But athletes, Jerry, I don't know if you ever had an ex-college athlete, but oh my God, you guys are competitive. You're disciplined. You make things. And look at all. Speaking of, look at all the medals behind you there.
Oh,
That
yeah.
shows how competitive you are. That's a winner right there. But that's interesting that it was an ex-athlete you took over, because I talked about this on one episode of our Chasing Dirt show or something like that. That ex-athletes are like phenomenal. So God bless you on that one, man.
Well,
Appreciate it.
listen, let's don't get carried away. I mean, I'm an athlete myself, but I was one of those guys that had 3 yard burst, and then I'd see somebody like Derek running with the ball, go, he's got it, what a touchdown. Yeah,
I was with the guy who was Derek's running. I'm the guy driving by honking at him, going, "It's easier, it's quicker to drive." So that's my.
yeah.
No, right.
So you
on.
got into
Appreciate it,
Nilfis.
fellas.
How long were you at Nilfis, Derek?
I was at Nilfis for about 4 years.
Nice.
Yeah, managing Illinois. I kind of left right at the helm of the height of the pandemic. We were deploying the Liberty, the SC-50, and yeah, just supply chain issues was a nightmare. But yeah, that's when I got out of the game for about a year.
I'll say one good takeaway with working for an equipment manufacturer, and you'll laugh when you hear this, but I bet you can back a trailer up like no other.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I went in never having driven a pickup truck or a trailer, and I could drive that joint on the highway backwards, no problem. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the one common thread of all equipment sellers, is that they most likely have never backed a trailer up, but when they get good at it, boy, they can do it at 50 miles an hour, as Derek said.
Yeah, well, yep, absolutely.
Every guy that's ever bought his first camper, like trying to park a camper, equipment guy pulls in, hey, let me help you with that real quick.
Yeah.
So I can get you how to do that. So.
Yeah, shout out to my old manager Adam Luz. Yeah, he definitely taught me a whole lot.
That's fun. So tell us, so your history, how we got into this. How long have you been with EKT batteries, and tell us about EKT batteries? Because again, I don't think anybody thinks about batteries until they have to think about batteries. And I think when they start to think about it, they go, holy crap, I didn't know all of that. So we'll get into that. But how long at EKT, and
Yeah,
what do y'all
coming up on a year at EKT. Like you said earlier, selling equipment, you get familiar with batteries to a certain extent, but it's not like a huge selling point because all equipment manufacturers make the equipment, but they don't make the batteries. And obviously, you need the batteries to power the equipment. EKT is a manufacturer of lithium iron phosphate batteries. It's a global manufacturer, about 40% market share in the forklift material handling space, and started off been around for around 20, 25 years. So they've got 4 global manufacturing plants: China, Turkey, Italy, and Brazil. And we'll have U.S. assembly and some manufacturing in 2027. So it's a great company to work for. Our kind of claim to fame is these prismatic cells, which are safer, they're more efficient. We do lithium iron phosphate. You see a lot of lithium ion, and the difference between the two is the lithium iron phosphate is safer chemistry. So you'll have something that's called thermal runaway, which is essentially if a battery were to light or explode. Lithium ion fires are exceptionally difficult to put out. You can't put it out with water. You need a special chemistry that can put out lithium ion fires, and they burn for a very, very long time. And our batteries have a much higher capacity and thermal runaway point than lithium ion, so they're safer. And we've done puncture tests where a lithium ion battery would kind of explode, and ours just smoke out into a non-toxic smoke that's emitted.
Yeah, it's kind of you've seen, maybe you've seen it. I when I got into my distribution days, I remember we were getting into equipment, and I was working with Nilfus as well. Joe T. Hand, he and I, we did a lot of audits. We were doing a lot of audits facilities, but I was like, what the hell? I didn't understand that. But if you connect the wrong charger to the wrong battery, those batteries, you ever seen those batteries like they're actually about to explode, and you're like walking up on a battery that should be square or rectangle, and it looks like a bubble almost, and stuff like that. But tell like people, like, take a deep dive, because I think people buy the equipment, like you said, the OEM batteries are there, but those batteries, if you really think about it, it's not, it's the fuel of it. But help me understand this better. But it's that equipment, the longer it's running, is probably the more effective you are in that facility you're in, right? So if your batteries are dying down, you're not getting the full effective run out of that, or you're not be able to run 2 or 3 shifts because you got to go plug it in for another 4 or 5 hours. That battery, besides being safer, what is the play that you're coming out there? Because what you mentioned is forklifts, but you guys are making a hard push into the commercial cleaning space with contract cleaners, right? That's the play right now you're working on, right?
Correct. And AGM and wet field batteries are a great application. I mean, they're good deep cycle batteries. I mean, that's why they're in cars and things of that nature outside of the EVs. But the big thing about lithium batteries is we're all familiar with them via our phones. We charge our phones when we need to. We might charge them for a couple hours. We might do an opportunity charge where we can get 10 minutes. Things of that nature. So the big thing with lithium versus an AGM or wet field is AGM and wet field batteries. They like to have be committed to a charge. So if the batteries are dead, they want to be charged all the way before they're used again. And so we're just used to that kind of behavior because most of the technology we use today is powered by lithium. So when we go to use our auto scrubbers and things of that nature, we tend to charge when we can. We overcharge, we undercharge. The biggest problem in the equipment space is batteries. I mean, you get end users that are replacing batteries every year, every 18 months, etc. When we're supposed to be able to have them for 3 to 4 years if you're taking care of them. But the problem is there's so much turnover in the industry. You don't learn many good habits as an end user, and And the biggest complaint I hear from BSCs when it comes to equipment is, I'm replacing batteries every 18 months.
Yep.
I'm replacing batteries every year, maybe every 6 months. And really, what you want to do is take the variability out of the batteries in this case. And you can put our batteries in. We've got a 5-year full warranty. You charge it when you want to. There is no negative to opportunity charging, and the charge cycle is much shorter. So I mean, with AGM wet fill batteries, you're typically double the charge time. When I was selling scrubbers, you typically say, hey, you get 4 hours of runtime and 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours of charge time. So in reality, you're not really getting 4 hours of runtime because you might be running one of the machine with more pad pressure or more water or things of that nature, and that pulls more amps, so more power is being used. So you get less time. But the beautiful thing about lithium is if we tell you 4 hours, you're getting 4 hours of runtime. If we tell you the charge time is 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever that battery needs, it will be that. So, I mean, we've got a customer down in the Southeast that we built a battery for. It's an industrial battery, and they're getting, 13, 14 hours of runtime on one rider scrubber. So,
Wow.
so
That's a lot. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time.
That's great.
it is. So
That's a lot.
I
That's a
got a
lot
guy
of
in
time.
San Antonio who probably wishes he'd have known about that about a month ago. He was doing a parking garage and kept charging every 4 hours. He's like, it's killing me. So
yeah, exactly. So I mean, especially for a BSC, the less time you're working or you're able to work, the more money you're losing. So it's all about efficiency, and how much dollar, how much your efficiency you're getting out of that labor every hour, every shift and whatnot. So that's the beautiful part of lithium is that aspect there is the idea that AGM and wet field batteries aren't bad batteries, but they're not the right batteries for the application of an auto scrubber. Where, like you were saying, Jack, you've got to you're switching over from a shift. I might run the machine, I might run an auto scrubber in the morning, and I want my second shift to run it. Well, they can't run it because the machine's going to be charging during the whole shift. So one of the statements we say is one machine, one battery, and that kind of goes into this idea of we've got this one machine and it's doing double the productivity of a machine that's being run by AGM or a wet field.
So let's talk to two things. I'll hit the first one, but I this educated me when I got into that side of the business. Like that again, I'll slaughter the terminology, but that recharge, like people, like you said, everybody's used to just plug your phone in when you can, plug your phone in when you can. But that battery life on what is it, AMG or AGM? That battery life when you only use it for an hour, and maybe you only deplete 20%, you plug it back in and you unplug it and you run it, then you maybe use 30%, then you plug it back in. You're actually doing a disjustice to that battery, right? So that battery life
Correct.
is gonna reduce the longevity of it, right? Because it wants to be depleted down as much as possible, like down to less than 20%, right? Before
Correct.
you bring it back to get that length of, what is that, cycles? What are you calling that? What's the terminology?
Yeah, cycle count. Every battery has a usually when they warranty it, it's a time frame and then amount of cycles. So every AGM and every wet field and every lithium battery has a cycle count. But one, like you mentioned, the AGM, if you only charge it for 20, 30, 40 minutes and get let's say you get 20 or 30% charge, you've used the cycle without charging the battery to its full capacity. So whereas lithium likes to be opportunity charged. It doesn't juice a cycle when you charge it for 10 or 15 minutes, whereas AGM and wet field batteries it does.
Gotcha.
So that's exactly why contract cleaners or heavy users will report saying, hey, I've only had these batteries for a year, for 18 months, and I'm needing to replace them. That's exactly why, because of that charging behavior.
Interesting. I think, Jerry, I don't know how much you did with batteries, but here's the other angle I'm going with is, you mentioned you were at Nilfis. What was that? The SC? Which one was the autonomous unit? Which one was that? SC60 came out? SC50? What was it?
The first, the SC50, the Liberty. The 60
Yeah.
came after, but yeah, the Liberty was the SC50 was the first one that was built with in partnership with Carnegie Mellon University's
But I remember I
our
saw that,
core.
then I related to something else. But I remember these autonomous units are coming out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they actually are using more power, right? There are more amps.
They're
And
using
I
more power,
remember
correct?
Tasky, that was the unit. And again, this was going back a while, and I'm sure they've done better things, and it's just evolving. But their whole play was the ease of changing batteries because you had to change the battery so often. So what is your technology doing for this autonomous unit? So I invest 40, 50, 60,000 bucks into it. And quite honestly, I just saw a posted on the community, a school purchased $1 million worth of equipment, but you're purchasing $1 million equipment, you want to maximize that ROI. But if that battery life is not getting you where you need to be, what benefit are you seeing with, as these batteries and those autonomous units are in place, putting your stuff in? What can you see on that front?
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the biggest plays is you have these autonomous units. So the Liberty, for example, was an AGM battery. And as you were saying, I mean, you can only get a few hours of runtime, but you want as much runtime. You want, if you have an autonomous machine, you invest in an autonomous machine, you want the machine running as much as it possibly can. If you can run it 24/7, that's how much you want to run it. So
Yeah,
what we see a lot in like the golf cart industry is a lot of these autonomous golf collectors and lawnmowers and landscaping type of machines. And obviously, you want those machines running as long as they possibly can. And same thing for the auto scrub industry. So I mean, you still a lot of the autonomous machines today are running on some form of lithium, but I mean, LionsBot, Avid bots, they're all still using wet or AGM batteries for their units, which really is counterproductive. In Avid bots, for example, they have their Neo. You can pull out this massive shelf where you're having to swap the batteries if you want to keep it running on a shift. But I mean, it's 80, 90 plus pounds of battery you're swapping out. You have to bring this giant cart with the batteries. You swap the batteries and then go charge those. Where we could just design one battery that could run, like I said, for depending on how long you want it to run, and you could have a machine that's running 8 hours and charging on a couple, recharging in a couple hours. So then that productivity of an autonomous unit skyrockets in comparison to another machine that's running on AGM or wet field battery. So the autonomous that market, which is very interesting because when the autonomous machines like the Liberty and Tenet was coming out with their brain machine, when that stuff first hit the market, you were thinking that which manufacturer was gonna own that market? Was it going to be a Tenet, that runs the North American market? Was it going to be Nilfisk that runs the global market, or was it going to be a smaller player? And really, what you're seeing is a lot of these kind of Asian SoftBank, private equity backed companies that have hit the market, and they're not scrubber companies, but they're robotic companies, and they are focusing specifically on that market. They don't make anything else but a autonomous unit. And it was interesting to see them kind of come in and take over the market, despite the fact that they weren't scrubber companies. And now you have LionsBot does all the design and pretty much all the autonomous machines for Nilfisk. So Nilfisk invested all this money in autonomous units and then got out. They closed the plant in Brooklyn Park, and they're now no longer focusing on research. They just kind of outsourced it. So it is interesting, but the caveat, the problem with not being a scrubber company, what some of these autonomous companies are finding is it's a no-brainer if you deployed an autonomous machine in the field that lithium would have been the number one option to go with, because I get the most runtime out of it instead of focusing on any type of wet field or AGM battery. That doesn't even make any sense.
That's what's funny. And Jerry, you got some questions, I'm sure, but that was what's funny about when we were selling equipment. Joe Tehan and I and the crew and everybody at EBP was, they look at the price and they go, oh, what can I do to get a little lower? Well, we can move from this, this one battery to this lower cost battery, and they're investing this $10,000 or $20,000, and they're trying to save a couple $300 on a lower value, lower battery, but all of a sudden the runtime's depleted. They're going to be rebuying batteries 2 or 3 years or less, probably less than that. So it's kind of funny. So I think the takeaway there is really that cycle. What I want to get across is that cycle, because people don't really think about that. Let that thing deplete down, but you're still with those older batteries. You're going to see, not the life you want. The second thing is, as you kind of invest in autonomous, you do have the right I think, I don't see many people doing this, but you have the right to kind of say, this is the battery I'd like to have in it. So go,
Mm-hmm.
go big early, right? Is kind of the thought. And how do you maximize that investment? Because to your point, if you're spending $50,000 on an autonomous unit or more, you want that thing running by itself as much as possible. So I love that. But Jerry, you got any questions, man?
Yeah, I think Derek. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm former BSC for 20 years, and in my mind, I'm thinking about. And last night, I just helped a new young person in the industry. We did a mock walkthrough, and I was talking to them about vacuuming and how you work through timing and corded vacs versus backpack vacs, and I found myself saying to her, because my experience is probably 5 years old now, but um, your backpack vac, a battery powered backpack vac can cut your time down about half what it could from a corded vac. But I'm curious to know, what are you guys doing in that to bring it down to that part of the industry, and what impact are you guys having on that? Because I can remember, when I was buying backpack vacs, battery powered, it was stiff competition, but Makita really was getting into the Jansan market, and they had at the time the best battery life, um, for their smaller, mid-sized backpack vacs. So I'm just curious where you guys are in that, if that's a field that you're jumping into, or maybe there's some updated to that. Because I was trying to help her understand that, and I thought, man, I wonder if this thing is expanded beyond the 3 to 4 hour mark. And I agree 100% with what you said. All those batteries that they say are 3 to 4 hours, they're really not, because there's so many things that play into that. The amount of speed which the person is moving, and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. So just, yeah, a little bit of that, and I'd be curious to see where you guys are in that part of the market.
Yeah, definitely, because there's a different amp hour rating per per machine and per battery. So you might be able to say, yeah, at this amp hour I can get 4 hours, but the problem is you'll never operate the machine at that amp hour. So that amp hour rating. So you sell it as at a 4 hour amp hour rating, and then you're using the machine at a 2 hour amp hour rating. So that's what you're getting out of the machine. Now, when it comes to backpack vacs, that's actually a specifically a very interesting um, piece. We don't, so EKT doesn't really focus that much on the backpack, on the vacuum space, just because, like you said, it's extremely competitive. The batteries are a lot smaller, and there's a lot of manufacturers that play in that space, and some of them may be good, and some of them may not be. But I think the one that's kind of leading the market there is, it seems like Hoover is making a really big play in the industrial space. They're typically known as more of a residential product, but they've actually dumped quite a bit of resources and research into developing those batteries. Because, I mean, in my experience with backpack vacs, you might be able to get an hour if you're lucky on one charge, on one battery pack, and then you always get customers and end customers and end users that are complaining about the power versus core electric. So
Right.
I think that's an industry that's really interested and ripe for disruption, because if somebody could put together and put out to the market a truly powerful backpack vac or battery powered, kind of like hand vac, not hand, but the floor vacuum, that
Right.
thing would that thing would sell like crazy, because most end users, especially, I mean, if you're having to clean stairs, things of
Yeah.
that nature, like, you need that backpack vac, because who wants to be hauling up
Right.
a traditional vacuum up the
Yeah.
stairs?
It's all
you
about
know,
time. It's all about,
exactly, yeah.
like with, I won't call any names of products, but there's been products where you spend $1,100 on a backpack bag, and then you spend another $500 on a charging station and extra batteries,
Hmm.
because that batteries only lasts an hour or two. And to be efficient, you got to have 3 or 4 batteries a night. And so it's an expensive endeavor for efficiency. But you're right. If there was somebody who could jump into that market, even on the battery side, and partner with somebody and say, look, this is a viable market to get in, and it would help drive costs down, labor costs down. And I know everybody's focused on robots right now, but I haven't seen a robot that can climb a stairs yet, um, and vacuum. There might be one that can climb stairs, but
I've seen one go downstairs.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow. Yeah. I got.
Good one too. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was a thought, Derek. And I know you guys specifically focus on the big machines, but it's not every company in the BSC world uses big machines. There are a lot of them doing vacuums. So
Mm.
but yeah, you're right. Even the walk behinds now that you guys are investing in and being the walk behinds, like if you get a a large medical area that has big open lobbies or big open floors, and that machine lasts for if it lasts for 4 hours, it's kind of a win, right?
Mm.
It's a big win where most of those things, like you said, depending on how much water and how much pressure you're putting on the machine, run down pretty quick. So, but that's good. Well, anyway, I was just curious where you guys were. So that's good.
No, yeah, I mean we are a custom house, and I brought it up to my CEO Murad to, hey, we should design a battery in this space, and for us, like the bigger the better. But
Sure.
it is something that I continue to toy with because I do think it is a right, it's a great area. If somebody figures that out, they will take over for sure.
Yeah, well, and it becomes volume then. Yeah, much
Yeah,
more volume for sure. So
absolutely.
thank you, Derek, for letting me answer.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Derek. So again, maybe I'm stepping on myself here, but I think you are, again, we'll put this in the show notes a little bit if it's true, but you may be looking because you guys are looking to really get some of this technology in the hands of some contract cleaners that you want to build some case studies. You want to show them what your product can do. Is that still the case that you guys are looking for some contractors in certain markets that are open to maybe giving a whirl to your products?
Yeah,
What's
so we have a demo test program, so people can sign up. We'll ship them a free battery. They can test out the battery for a month or so, and really, it's just about earning the business in the right way, in a way that's tangible. This industry, no matter how long people have been working in it, it's a see it to believe it, a show and tell
yeah,
industry. I never sold, rarely ever sold auto scrubbers without going out there, hauling that trailer, hauling the equipment, and showing it. So whether it was an end user that's been around for 20, 30 plus years, they still wanted to see it. So we're very, very understanding of that, and the reality that, hey, there's a lot of players in the battery space, and some are better than others. But EKT is, like I said, a global manufacturer. Like, we get down and dirty when it comes to the battery. So and then the other part that I think is really important for us to communicate is we're focused on the entire life cycle of the battery. So one of the big problems with lithium is the recyclability of it. So when a lithium battery, one of our batteries are done, we have local partners in the U.S. That will take in for either the end of life cycle, what we call the second phase of life for batteries, because a lot of lithium batteries, when they're done being used, they can be restored to a certain degree, and used for other industries like energy storage, and things of that nature. So, and then we have a recycling partner where those batteries are recycled, and we're making sure we're a very green product, not only because our batteries last a lot longer than an AGM or a wet field battery, but also because we have systems and infrastructure in place where we're taking ownership of that entire life cycle. I know it's extremely important, because everybody likes to look at EVs and lithium as green, but when it comes to that end of life cycle, things can get really ungreen if you're not focusing on what needs to be done there.
awesome. Awesome. No, this has been knowledgeable. So appreciate the time. Yeah, I'm going to put your information in the show notes so they can reach out to you via LinkedIn. I'll drop your email if you're okay with that and that as well.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I think it's worth the conversation to have. Again, you guys are coming hot and heavy. I won't throw the numbers out. I'll let you do that. But you guys are coming hot and heavy with this product, and you're really looking to make some waves here the next year or two. And I think those early adopters are probably going to see the benefit of what you guys are bringing to the market. So hats off to you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going 15% market share, man, and want to do that by hitting a lot of BSCs and saying, hey, I want to go to these BSCs and have them with feedback saying we haven't replaced batteries this month, or we haven't replaced batteries this year, because just because it's normal doesn't mean that that's how it's got to be. So things can always be improved, and that's the message. And when I'm talking to folks is you're comfortable doing things a certain way, but doesn't mean that because that's your common sense way about doing things doesn't mean it can't be changed and improved.
No, you think about it. Last thing I'll say, and I'll let you wrap it up, and Jerry, you can wrap it up. But you think about batteries, so you're not getting the productivity you need out of it. So that's one thing. You're not getting the life out of it. So that's that ROI on your investments. So that's another ROI. When they actually go down, you're probably not down for like 1 hour or one day. It's typically, oh crap, that machine's down. We can't use it. It's a week or two before you get the product out there. So that's further thing. And then finally, I think I'm right on this one, but I was trying to remember my old days to have that distributor come out and pick that battery up, and that they charge you a fee for disposal. So
Sure
there's
do.
there's four whammies hitting you if your batteries are having to be replaced every year or two, and I think that's why you got to look at that as well. So that's just my little last thoughts. Jerry, any last thoughts before we let Derek wrap it up?
No, I just think, I mean, if you're interested, definitely reach out to Derek. It's been an honor to have you on the show, and thankful for what you guys are doing in the industry.
No, I really appreciate the time, fellas. Definitely was great chatting with you all, and again, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on your platform. I love what you guys are doing, and yeah, I'll be seeing you guys around because like you said, we never leave the industry.
We'll drop your notes in the show notes, and no, appreciate the time, and have a great weekend, Jerry. I will see you Monday. Derek, have a good weekend, buddy.
All right, talk soon.